Okay, I'm on the last round of it right now. So you can see I've got my block here. It's got all the rows on it. I just need to do the last 2 strips of a dark fabric. Got the center 1, 2, 3 rounds of the lights. 1, 2, 3. And then on the darks I've got 1, 2, and I've got 1 more to go. Your last one, it's been a while. I've put this down overnight, and so I can tell where I need to go back to because I counted the rows, so I know I need to do the dark. But also you can see that this one right here, this one is the one that has the full piece on it. There's not a seam that intersects it. Like if you look at another one, it'll have an intersection on it. So this one is the full piece, so that's going to be the last one I sewed. So I'll go ahead and I'll put in a strip. I put that up at the top. Match my seams. Or the raw edges rather. Match the raw edges and then go ahead and sew. Get this down here. Kind of get it up on the edges there. Make sure I'm still keeping it to the right edges, the raw edges. And put the last one on. Find the last side sewn, put that down, and stitch it. Like I said, you may need to pin these bigger pieces to kind of help hold it for you to get it going. Part of it is I've been doing it for so many years that I'm able to just go ahead and do it. And then I'll press this and sew the last 2. Whoops, I already started the play. Okay, there we go. Alright, so I got that stitched down. Here comes the very last one. Instead of using the same one, I'm going to use a different one because the other one wasn't long enough, and I'm kind of making these a little bit scrappy to see what that looks like because I've never made one of the sampler quilts in the classes. In the scrappy, I've always, I do scrap quilts all the time, but this particular one, for this pattern, for what I'm using it for, I've never made it scrappy. I've always just kept it with the background and the 4 colors. So I'm just doing something different. I'm just using what I have on hand, because you get to where, you know, I've got quite a bit, so I got a nice stash of fabric. That's something that you just build up over time. It doesn't happen overnight. I save scraps from all the quilts that I've made, and I buy fabric that I like. I've done that for years. Some of the fabric I've had, or that I have, I've had for 20 years. As long as you store it right and take care of it, it should last you. I don't have enough here on the rest of this strip to finish to do the second one, so I'm going to have to use a different fabric for that. That strip's not long enough. So I've got another one cut here, because I kind of figured that might happen. Like I said, the last one, put your strip down, put the last one that you sewed on the top going in first. And then after I get this stitched, pressed and trimmed, we'll go take a look at it and see what the 2 blocks look like. And then I'll show you another method to sew the log cabins. Many times, since I do scrap quilts a lot, I use the other method. This particular method that I've shown you so far is really good if you're doing a lot of the log cabins and they're going to have some similar logs on them. Like I'm using the same background, but if, you know, kind of like just use whatever strips you have, and then you can kind of go and change those all the time. I don't know how these pictures are going to turn out, but we'll see. Let me go trim these, and we'll be back and show you the results. Okay, you can see I've got both of them trimmed. This one here looks like it's got a little bit of a wrinkle in it, but it's just the way it's up on the board. But there's the two that we made on that method. So now I'm going to go do the other one. And I'll show you how to put it if you pre-cut your logs and you're ready to go. We'll be using the same size measurements, the 2-inch strips, the 3.5-inch center, and each strip is 2 inches. They keep getting bigger. You had the cutting chart on your instructions. Okay, so I'm just going to make one this time. It's the same way as what we were doing it. I've got my 3.5-inch square center to start it off, and I'm adding on a light, and let's see, that one I didn't trim right. So I've got a light, and you always put your block on that you're adding, and so you're going to match up your right sides here. I'm adding this strip here, so that's the one that's going to be on the bottom. What I'm adding it to is going to be on the top. As you sew, your pieces are going to kind of shrink down just a little bit. The more seams there are, the more chance it is that it could be smaller and shrink up. So you put the bigger piece on the bottom and it'll help to ease in your stitches. So I'm going to stitch this down to the end. If I was doing several, I could do a lot at one time and chain piece. You're going to press it to what you just sewed, so that's going to be on the top, and then you press it that direction. I'm just going to finger press it right now so I don't have to keep getting up and going over to the ironing board. So I did one light. Here's the second one. Lay it down. The one I just sewed goes on the top. And just match up your sides. And start sewing. I'm going to pull it down because, like I said, since this has one seam in it, it may be just a little bit smaller than the one that you cut. So that's why we put it on the bottom. So match it up to the end. Down here on the end, and your sewing machine, the dog feed, will help to pull it in to get it to match. Press that to what we just stitched. Get the next one. Oh, no, wait a minute. It's going to be dark this time because it's too light. I got lights, and the next one's going to be dark. So I'm going to lay that down and lay that down. And the same thing, just match it down here at the other end and kind of hang on to it. Notice I held down the seam so that it would go ahead and fall the way it's supposed to. Do another dark. keep sewing. When you have them all cut and you have them laid out, you can really kind of get a rhythm going and get it going kind of fast. You're not having to stop to go press and trim every single time, which does help to speed it up some. And I also find that it's a little bit more accurate because it's got the exact size it needs to be. So you won't be pressing in any fullness on anything. So I've done 2 lights, 2 darks, so the next one's going to be a round of light. Get another light one. I kind of like filming this while I'm doing it. I don't know if I'm able to kind of keep my hands out of your way. I'm hoping that you'll be able to see. Maybe I'll be able to tell when I go back to play this, but because as I'm doing it, I can think of different things I might want to tell you. And if I make a mistake and something happens, then you're going to see how to deal with it. So you can learn that way also. Because a lot of times it's also figuring out how to deal with what you got.